Thank you for joining us here on the podcast. Today, I got 4 awesome guests, and we'll just go around just who you are and how long you've been in the roofing industry. Bryan, you want to start us off?
Bryan Gottron, I'm the Ohio rep, started in 96, so almost 27 years.
And I'm Trent Drake with Premier Claims. Been about 5 years, Bryan. I didn't know you were that old.
Thank you.
50th birthday coming up in a week or two.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jeff Gottron, I'm the rep in state of Michigan. Started in June 1st of 1983, so I have my 40-year anniversary June 1st.
Wow.
Chris Gottron, 4.5 years, and help out with the east side of the Ohio territory. So it's been a good run.
That's awesome. So kind of the premise of the podcast here today is just the roofing industry, some innovations you see down the road, what you're excited about in the future. So we'll dive into kind of what are some things that you see coming down the road as far as innovation in the future, and what are some things that are exciting to you right now, just thinking about the next 5 to 10 years in the roofing industry?
Well, the thing that excites me the most is seeing young people like yourself, Ben. I think one of the things I was kind of nervous about watching, things over the last 10 years is I felt like the average age of people in the roofing industry just kept creeping up and up, and I was hoping that there'd be, young people that would want to get involved in the roofing industry at a younger age, because it's a great trade, it's a great industry. There's obviously, everybody needs a roof and lots of opportunity out there, so it's exciting to see, you and, your, cousins and everybody that are involved in your business. But we see a lot of companies now that have 20-somethings and early 30-somethings bringing fresh ideas to the industry, and it's great because we learn a lot from you.
Well, that's good. The young guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, same for me. A lot of that, we're at Premier Claims, we're growing like crazy. We're hiring people left and right. We're trying to keep up with, I guess the industry, as you would say. So it's an exciting time to be a part of what we're doing. And, we're just trying to be a bigger part of the Duro-Last contractors that we work with. So, yeah, it's definitely growth mode, so it's fun to watch.
Yep. And as Bryan was saying, yeah, there's a lot of newer ideas, a little more high tech per se, versus when I started back. I mean, it's totally different as far as it was pretty much before everybody was online, internet, marketing, the way that marketing's going today. And I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the newer ideas. I'm also excited about, at least up in Michigan, they're really promoting the vocations back, because I think labor's been the toughest thing for most of the contractors, is to find labor. And so many people, you got to automatically go to college. Well, there's a lot of trades out there, roofing, electrical, different things like that, plumbing, where we need more younger people getting involved with that. And I think there's an emphasis right now on promoting to the younger. College isn't for everybody. Why not start right out, eliminate the debt, and jump right into a vocation that interests you?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that we could almost start like a roofing, group to introduce high school kids on what roofing's all about, because it's a great trade, and I think there's a lot of misconception about what we do, because I think the first thing people think about is shingles.
Yeah, for
but,
sure.
And standing up there, how dangerous
Carrying
it is.
them up a ladder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think if we could introduce to this younger group what it's like to be on a Duro-Last roof, on a flat roof, it's more like carpentry versus it is, what people think in their mind what roofing is. I know that's the way it was for me when I heard, hey, you interested in checking out a roofing company? It was the furthest thing from my mind of what it really is, until you kind of get introduced to it.
I actually have a presentation that I give that has a slide comparison in the PowerPoint of the image from Shawshank Redemption when they're all up on top of the prison hot mopping roofing on, and obviously that was kind of the start of flat roofing, was hot asphalt and kettles and torches, fumes, carcinogens, really dangerous things that would obviously be a deterrent from wanting to be
heck yeah.
in the roofing industry. And you compare that to, working with a white Duro-Last roof system, cool to the touch, none of those hazardous things that come with the build-up industry, no kettles, stuff like that. So to your point, Jeff, we probably need to do some educating to make sure people understand that roofing's maybe better than what their impressions might be.
Definitely.
For me, I would say it's a twofold item. One that's still sticking around from the original, and then the one that I like is opportunities with the technology, being able to have more visibility to what's going on, where things are happening, what industries need more help. It just takes a certain level of sophistication to maximize how you can get to everything now. It's not so much identifying where we have to go. It's one, being effective when we get there, and two, maximizing our time. And over the first 5 years of being in this career, my favorite thing has been working with small business owners and people where, that's their company, that's their livelihood of how they take home and make a living for their family. And the next 5 years, I think it's going to be all the more imperative as the number of skilled tradespeople dwindle and hopefully come back. But at the same time, the good part about a supply and demand curve is the less people that know how you're doing it, the more return you get for your time. And while it may be harder for us in sales or even for putting on roofs, the better people that can hold on to the good roofers that can go about it more sophisticated can really make a great living in what would be seen as an unglamorous trade, so to speak.
Well, definitely. I mean, you can really make a lot of money as a roofer, as a foreman. And when you're talking about educating the youth, I think a big thing about it is to say, like we had a roofer make $87,000 last year with the bonus and everything. And that's a lot. That's more than my friend that graduated with a master's degree made his first year and second year at a company. So all the debt you take on doing that when you could just be a roofer. I mean, that wasn't his first year roofing, but it wasn't his 10th year. It was like a 7th. So it could be lucrative as well as not taking on debt. You could actually make a good living, a living wage doing roofing.
One other thing, I mean, this doesn't really tie into what I'm excited about for the next 5 years, but I look at everybody that we work with, it seems like everybody's having fun, legitimately having fun, where I came from a finance background, and I can't say that was the case in even half the departments that I worked with. And so I like the people that I work with day in and day out. I like the people I work for day in and day out. And it's really satisfying spending all those hours and looking back and saying, one, I made a ton of progress, and two, I made a ton of progress with the people I enjoy. And so I think we're really lucky in that standpoint.
A bunch of happy roofers that we have.
And I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff coming out too. I think, you and I kind of talked about it. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's a company out there that you can, on the artificial intelligence side, they're trying to talk to us about buying airspace above buildings digitally. Who thought you could ever sell air? Jeff, you're like that, right? So, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of cool stuff that keeps evolving in our world that's going to be really neat in the future. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's funny to me when I talk to some people who've been around in the industry. Sometimes they just don't. They like Jeff, you've been around before the internet, right? So, in the industry,
Before cell phones.
Going way back. But you've seen the evolution of things, right? So if I was to say, maybe someday soon I could get a roof quote to someone within a certain tolerance of a percentage without even seeing it, based off of how old it is, the measurements that I could pull, and some AI doing some math to give me a number within a certain tolerance. It wouldn't be that far off of maybe what you've seen from the start of things to now. But some people are stuck in the way, there's no way that would happen, or there's no way I could see technology becoming more of a part of the roofing process. So how do you get someone like that out of that mindset, and what are some things that you have seen that you didn't think were possible when you first started in the roofing industry?
Well, when I started, pretty much everybody was, bidding roofs the same way, right?
Yep.
Go out, hand write everything, and they would do their bids. Also, like most of the guys were ex-roofers, started out on a crew, decided, hey, I want to start a company, and it was hard for them to give up. Like, they wanted to do all the bids, they wanted to run the crew, they wanted, every single component and talk to the customers. Well, they limited themselves to, a certain growth. Like, they were only doing 100, 150,000 a year, right, in sales. Duro-Last purchases per se. Okay. They hired one guy that came from a bigger company, told the owner, hey, you're no longer going to be up on that roof. You're going to be the guy going out and meeting the customers. We're going to have an estimator go out, gather the information. The guy was going to figure out all the bids, right? His son was going to be the foreman, and Tom was just going to go out and deliver the bids because he's a great people person. So it was like getting the right guys in the right seat of the bus, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard for these old school guys to kind of let go because they started the company and they think they got to do everything. But, if you take more of a let go, and it's kind of like having a state as a rep and being afraid to let go and hire somebody else to join your group, and you think you're going to lose commissions, but instead, if you can work in a smaller area, you're less windshield time per se, right? Yeah. And say 3 guys can cover a state way more effectively than one person, and the overall, growth is way quicker.
Yeah, so just kind of like leveraging people instead of you doing everything.
Yeah, and I think, putting the right people, because everybody has different talents, and, putting the right people in the right place is very important for a company to grow properly.
Yeah. So, like, speaking of technologies, what are some technologies, and I don't know if we touched on this already, on the first go around, I know we talked about kind of the youth coming up, but specifically, what are some technologies that you see coming into the industry that could start to disrupt the industry?
I mean, the thing that I think I'm lacking in and would like to get better in, so I'm hoping there's technologies that'll improve in this, is just from a pure, lead generation standpoint. I start to think about, lots of people have roof problems every day. So that building across the street, they have a roof leak. The owner of the building, what's his first thought of how am I going to find out who I'm going to call if they don't already know somebody? Do they go to the internet to try to Google search something? Do they call another friend of theirs that owns a building and say, hey, who did you use when you had roofing issues? And I'm sure it's a combination of all of those things, but from a technology standpoint, we've got a marketing budget. I'm sure you have a marketing budget. You try to think about what's the best way to put use to that money that is going to end up, building awareness for that owner and a bunch of other owners, so they think I'm going to call me if they have a need, or have them call you. So I would think that there's going to be some really cool technologies that are going to come out that are going to hopefully make effective use of your marketing dollars, so that you can.
What's something that's kind of working for like that you see working right now as far as lead gen? Is it still the old school like trade shows, or are you having success maybe in Facebook or something like that? What's something you see working at the moment?
Well, we do them all, and I wouldn't say any of them work every time. That's why I think that we're doing them all. So we are working trade shows. We have people doing mailer programs. You had mentioned billboards on the side of the road that people still doing it. Some people would probably consider that to be, a pretty old-fashioned way to do it. I know people that, put on, ribbons on the bottom of the Weather Channel that, might, have their information on there. People obviously during rain events are watching the Weather Channel or snow events, so it's a logical thing to do there. So I don't know that any of them are wrong, I guess. And then obviously there's the whole search engine optimization side of things, of how much are you going to put into that, so that when people say, roofing contractor, Northwest Ohio, whatever.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
they going to look up,
Are you
your
gonna show
company
up?
and where do you show up on the list
Yeah.
and all of that stuff? So that's not a very good answer to your question, but I guess that's my point. I'm hoping that there's, more creative, smart things that we could be doing with our money to work well.
From a claim standpoint, I'm really curious more than anything of that process seems to develop slower, if you will, in terms of you've got a lot of regulation that comes within it from state to state. It varies. So are you seeing technology that makes your job simpler? I think of, maybe this isn't something new, but your guys' mapping technology to identify areas that might be more relevant, and then marrying data subsets. That's, to me, the next step. You have your technology to say, okay, this is the target rich area, and then you go, okay, how do we take that and convert that into real opportunities? And communicating with somebody that has a data subset that seems arbitrary, but when you marry the two, it becomes a very powerful tool.
Yeah, I mean, great question, and we've tried, obviously,
Yeah.
you and I,
Yep.
and I think it's evolving every day. I mean, we use technology now that supposedly gets us within 15, 20 feet of the hail.
Right.
Yeah, the technology's not always accurate, right?
Right.
But it's close. That stuff's improving every day. Our adjusters just got access to a new system now where we get satellite imagery photos. And you can basically tell what a roof used to look like 3 months ago from this satellite imagery.
Interesting.
And then compare that to now what it looks like after a storm. So, especially in big wind events, you can see where there's big impacts involved with that. But, out of the hurricane, we used a lot of that technology from Florida. So that stuff on our side advances every day. I think even more importantly is we've got to get, people are ingrained to, when there's a problem, to get a hold of their insurance company, and they just think their insurance company is going to take care of them.
Yeah. You are in good hands.
Yeah, I mean, they spend, yeah, exactly. And they spend billions of dollars every year in marketing that, right?
Yeah.
And you're friends with your agent, but people really don't understand your agent doesn't have anything to do with the claims process, It's the adjusters, and they need to realize that insurance companies are looking at those claims as money-making opportunities for the insurance company.
Yeah.
They don't want to pay it like it should be paid, which is why we get involved. But the more education that we can have with, the more contractors here, the better that is for us. So, as this technology gets better, it would be really nice if we could share our information.
Yeah.
And then we could find out where all the roofs were. So, yeah, it's coming. I think it's going to be here. I mean, it's kind of here. We just got to make it work.
Right.
So,
Refine.
So, talking about the future of insurance claims and roof claims, obviously you have. I want to know what your opinion is on this. So, the insurance company's paying out this money. They probably don't like to do that. More than likely, they like to keep as much as possible to push the propaganda out a little bit. But
what a great model, right?
Yeah,
People
really.
pay premium, and they never have to pay it out.
Yeah, and they're afraid to do it maybe sometimes to do a claim. But do you see, in the future, the insurance company becoming more involved? I know, they own public adjusters sometimes, or the adjuster group, so they still are kind of involved in that a little. But is there a point that you see maybe them owning a roofing company and trying to do the roofs of their own claims or something like that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the whole public adjusting industry came from the insurance companies trying to regulate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, why don't we create this independent group that at any time can fight the claims that we decide? Well, they've got 100x times marketing power than any public adjusting firm does. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think 99.8% of all commercial claims that get filed without a public adjuster.
Gotcha.
And the average payout is between 30 and 40 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
With the projects that we've done with you guys and the rest of the group here, we can significantly improve some of those profit margins compared to retail bids and things like that. So it's just about taking that off your plate as the contractor, because in a lot of states you're not allowed to talk about policy and things like that as the contractor, right? But basically taking that whole process off your plate, letting us get the claim done, and then you guys do the work. So
just education, that makes sense.
At the end of the
so
day,
many aren't being filed with the public adjuster.
and a lot of the people, unfortunately, like we dealt with the hurricane, I would say 90% of the people had no idea what was even in their policy.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back to them and let them know that, hey, you've got an ACV policy that means you don't have coverage anymore. Well, they don't know what that means. They took a call from their agent and said, I can save you a couple $100 if you move from this policy to this policy without any description of what kind of coverage I now have.
Yeah.
Now a hurricane hits my house and I don't have coverage. Now everybody's mad, right? So we saw more of that than anything else. And then people don't understand their policies when they do have them in place. So a lot of what we do is education and then understanding, maybe what your options are for policy moving forward. So, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about sales. So, we're at this is the sales seminar. Here we are, all of us sales guys. And what are some things you see working right now as far as lead gen? I know you touched on it a little bit, but what are, Mike had mentioned when he was here earlier, he said something that I thought was really great, which is really focus on your previous customers if you're an established business. And I think that we overlook that sometimes in our position. And as soon as you open that door back up, sometimes it's just like, wow, maybe we should only do this kind of stuff because it's so easy to get back into that situation where you're dealing with the decision maker again, because a lot of times it's a different person in these places. So is there anything specifically that you see working or that you think is a little better to try when it comes to sales generation and lead generation right now in the industry?
I would think, and it's kind of proven over the years, if you pulled up how many jobs that you've done since you guys started, and I got guys, like Mike Morris that he's been around for 40 years, and most of those are 15-year warranties, right?
Yeah.
And if you contact the people, the expired warranty thing, which was great when, Chris had the technology, which I had no idea about, where you can pull up basically each town, show you exactly where all those expired warranties are, right? And why not go after people that have had a successful Duro-Last roof? Your chances of reselling a existing customer is way higher than trying to find a new one, right?
What if you're someone that doesn't have that established base? Like, do you think cold calling's the way to go, stopping in, or is it trying everything? What would be your advice for someone like that?
Well, I think if it's somebody new, and people that have a lot of contractors don't like repair work, and I think the repair business is a great feeder into the re-roofing market, and just like the breakout session here, if you can start and do a good job getting a repair and do a roof analysis for them, and then giving them a bid on replacing it. You're letting them know he should either replace it or maybe he got a few more years that we can, give him a budget and let them know how much it's going to cost. But it's way cheaper to do a re-roof now if you can do mostly recover versus waiting just a few more years and it's going to cost you 3 times more to do a full tear off, all new insulation, and so on.
So you kind of look at that as like earning a little trust, and it's a little easier to sell like a $1,200 repair as opposed to a $50,000 roof job.
Well, exactly, especially if they don't have the cash right now to do that. They just need those leaks to stop, and if you can at least stop them, quick enough to, get them in the dry, and then let them know how much it's going to be, and kind of explain to them, why he should do it sooner than later when he can repair it. And then also there's companies out there that, it's like it's called Michigan Saves, okay? So if they don't have all the money, they can get a low interest loan because they're making their building more energy efficient.
Gotcha.
So we're also trying to get them and tell them about the rebates they can get from, the energy companies to, put a reflective, energy efficient roof on there. And those are kind of the qualifications in order to get that low interest loan, which, gives them another avenue to afford it sooner than later.
If I may, one of the techniques that I used right when I started out we're taking some of the tools that are publicly available to anybody. Google Maps is one of my best friends in terms of the sales process because, one, it can make sure you can map things out on Google Maps to make sure that you're at least taking the most efficient approach to touch as many people as possible in a single day. Secondly, it has the aerial view, so if you don't have the dollars to invest or time to invest in a drone, you can simply scroll through, and it might be a couple years dated, but chances are, if you can identify an area of properties that have old appearing roofs, you can at least make those cold calls as efficient as possible. The third part to the sales side, it may not be lead gen, but I would say, if you're going to be a brand new roofer or somebody trying to sell your service, go and try to make that sale in the terms that they would understand. And what I mean by that is I always resonate more with empirical items, right? And so if somebody says, hey, I'm one of the top roofers at Duro-Last, that anybody could say I'm one of the top roofers at Duro-Last. But if you earn a 95 or above on your scores, people can understand 95 out of 100 better than saying I'm one of the top roofers. A lot of what the sales process for me, if you're gonna go try to sell, is framing your answer to make it as effective as possible to that client. And so if you're a platinum roofer, which is a very, very, very elite section of roofers, explain what that is, because you could say you're a platinum roofer and they just think it's some designation. But if you explain, no, I do over 1 million square feet a year or 1 million square feet over the history, over 95, people can start to actually resonate with those numbers, and it typically is tying back to something empirical for me. So I would say it's two parts of be effective with your time and how you go about your cold calls, and then inversely, when you do get in that door, make sure that your close rate's pretty high because you're translating it to words they would understand.
I make my guys make sure they're adding value somehow, right?
Yeah.
You got to have some benefit to the other person of the meeting while you're there. So figure out what that is, add value that way. So it could be a lot of different things. It could be their time, most important. Money could be most important. It could be the process of doing it. A lot of different things are important to different folks. So figure out what that is and work it from that angle.
One thing that made me think of listening to all of you, I'm a sales rep, so I represent a manufacturer, but we do things that we call like tag team selling, where contractor, roof manufacturer rep, and owner are all sitting at the same table. For a new contractor, it might be difficult for them to be able to show that they're credible. Having a sales rep there that can basically speak to the quality of work that they've done for us, it's basically letting somebody else toot their horn so that they don't have to toot their own horn. I think that always kind of sounds better. So,
absolutely.
We go on these tag team sales calls where I can spend some time talking to the owner about how well this company has installed roofs for us, and any awards that they've won, like Chris has said. And likewise, I find that it's a lot more valuable when my contractor is talking well of Duro-Last than me talking well of Duro-Last, because naturally they would expect me to talk well of Duro-Last. I represent them, but when the contractor is sitting there saying, I could install a handful of different products here, but if this was my roof, I would choose Duro-Last, and here's the reasons why. He's perceived as the expert. I kind of think of it like an auto mechanic. I don't know tons about car engines, so when I have car trouble, I don't really want the mechanic to come to me and say, hey, I could do 4 different things. What do you want? I prefer them to say, from my training and experience, I would do this because this is what I would do on my car. Yeah. So the point of that is I would suggest having a contractor bring support like that with them as often as possible. And the other thing that I thought of, try to figure out if there's other ways that you might be able to bring value besides roofing. Sometimes you might come visit a roof and the roof's in good shape. They might say, oh, we just had it replaced 4 years ago, so your timing's bad. But one of the things I say, well, would you mind if I look around? Because you might have skylights up there that are worn out. We might be able to take a look at that as a potential thing we can help you with. Mm-hmm. Is your fault protection up to OSHA compliance? Do you have safe ladders? Do you have guardrails next to HVAC units that might be near the edge? safety's become a really big deal at a lot of facilities, particularly factories and hospitals and universities. So might be an opportunity to go and see them and say, we do roofing, but there may be some other values that we can do. If you'd like, we can walk your roof once or twice a year just to see if there's anything bad that's happened over the course of the year, maybe before winter rolls in and dumps a bunch of snow on your roof.
Yeah, that's good. And when Kurt started the business too, like with my dad, they use Joe a lot, and I think that's definitely undervalued. If you're not, you guys need to do some stuff, right? Call your rep, have them go with you, keep them busy. I mean, that's a lead measure on the leg of Duro-Last sales. The more sales calls you guys are on, the better. I would say if you're trying to sell, and obviously that brings some validity to the contractor if you're just starting out, if you guys go with them. And I know that Kurt did that a lot, and he was a young guy too, and he was like, I'm this 20-year-old guy or 27 going in saying this roof's going to last 15 years, and then the customer will say to me, well, where were you at 15 years ago, Kurt? And he'd say, well, I was in 7th grade. And he'd be like, so how the hell would you know this is going to last 15 years?
Exactly.
So having that rep power is a great thing, I think. And
If I may hop in, just to change subject, to kind of answer your initial question, you can do new things with existing technology, and I'm going to brag on you guys a bit, is, for a long time, LinkedIn's been around and people tend to not use it in a very sophisticated manner. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, some publication of anything is better than none, period. But you guys tend to stay at the cutting edge of trying new things, and I think some level of consistency there is very big. So you guys went from posting install pictures to now you're doing drone videos, which I think drone videos capture people's curiosity way more than the photos. Additionally, I mean, look at this. Who even a year and a half ago would have thought, let's sit down and have a podcast? Now, every podcast that I've ever heard of or seen that's ended up being successful basically doesn't have any viewership for the first 25 episodes, but you've got to keep doing it, and then they get retroactive viewership after the fact. And trying to do new things, and as Andrea said earlier in general session, if you're not defining your brand, somebody will define it for you. And I think that is one thing that I've got to applaud you guys for is start making waves, even albeit small. Eventually that'll gain traction, and eventually that'll lend credibility to when you walk in the room and they go, I've seen you before. That automatically, from a couple years back, will give you a little bit more credibility than the guy that's sitting on the other side of the table trying to sell against you.
Yeah, I've watched every
Yeah, that's
podcast
good.
now,
Well,
As
thank
a
you,
part
Trent.
of the, yeah, they're fun
appreciate
though.
that.
They're good.
They're fun.
They are good.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely gotten better at doing
You
it.
have,
so,
yeah.
Like a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like if you rewatch yourself, you definitely get better, even though it's really hard, because you're like, that guy is an idiot,
Yeah.
and it's you.
Exactly what I think every time I see it.
Yeah, so you just, you get better though, and it definitely is a lot of consistency, being consistent. Hard to say something didn't work if you only do it for 8 months. You got to give it a good try, that's for sure. And the question I have for the Duro-Last guys here is, are we ever going to see a level of, there's a 95 and you're a platinum. Are we ever going to get like a 98 and above? Could we do that, 98? Separate the men from the boys a little bit.
Wow. I've never thought about that, but I don't see why not.
That'd be kind of cool. Only I say that because we're, above a 98
Right.
normally. So
That's very impressive.
It is.
yeah, I think
it's hard to do.
I think we were 98.79 or something last year. So as our average.
Congratulations.
You know what we called those kids in schools? Nerds.
Nerds, roofing nerds. Yeah.
But no, I mean, there's something to be said about achieving something very difficult and achieving it over time. I don't see any reason why adding an extra classification would be anything but a positive, both to Duro-Last, but also those contractors. The contractors that go out and give Duro-Last a great name, day in and day out, deserve to be recognized. And frankly, whether it gives them a leg up or not in sales, I think they deserve to have a leg up in sales. If you're going to go out and minimize our risk, represent us great to our clientele, you're the exact type of contractor that we want to be partnered with, why wouldn't we try to recognize you in an extremely elite category?
We are in Los Angeles. You have the right to call yourself double platinum then. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, we just, like, growing up in it, that's just, like, I don't know, I just thought you always get 99s and 100s, and if you get a 95, holy, like, you're going to get in trouble, man. Like,
we live in
my dad's
a completely different world,
like,
man.
he's yelling at me. You know, you get a 95, like, were you even on the job?
One of the things I've always liked about companies like Technique Roofing is they always wanted tech reps to be hard on them, you know? Obviously, people
That's
that
a really good
do
point.
questionable work, and you hate to say that there's any people out there that might be trying to cut corners. I don't feel like we have very many of those in the Duro-Last family, but really good companies want tech reps to be really hard on them. If there is an issue, they want to catch it at the inspection time so that the owner never suffers a leak because of it, you know, that you don't have a callback because of it. So that's good for your bottom line. That's good for repeat business. And so good companies like yours, I mean, everybody's like, you know, hey, we want you to dig on the seams. We want you to find an issue if there is one. And, you know, I know our tech reps take a lot of pride in trying to find issues. To average a score over a 98 is really hard to do. So congratulations.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, disclaimer, I only put a couple roofs on last year, and none of them got a warranty because they were just like quick fixes. So, you know, it's not me; it's our guys. They're working right now. Well, no, not right now. We're on the West Coast, so they're probably in bed or something. I don't know what time is it there. Like 7 or 8.
Not quite bedtime.
Yeah, they're not working out, but you know, it's all due to them and what they do. And you know, obviously my cousin Colin and Derek, they're still very, very involved. Colin, he's our head foreman still, so you know, it's just growing up. You just expected to do it really well. So, you know, I think there's a lot of companies like that, though, out there, like family business that grew up in it, and just high quality is just what they live by. So, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I got one more question for everybody, and then we'll conclude the podcast. I know we got to get going here. I know you guys you're busy, but one just real quick. What are some of your hobbies that you're into right now? That you know, pickleball was mentioned earlier. I don't know if that's the same for Bryan, but just something you're into right now that's new.
Nothing new other than I have been asked to play guitar at church a lot more lately. So I'm trying to break through some different types of barriers guitar-wise, whether that's the singing part or the playing part. So trying to challenge myself to, you know, learn things that are a little bit out of my, you know, wheelhouse there. And obviously maybe sing some stuff at church that's a little out of my comfort zone, and it's been fun. You know, you get feedback and that sort of thing, but that's nothing new. It's something I'd like to take to another level.
Awesome. That's good.
Jeff, you got anything new? I don't know.
Not really. I'm just trying to get better at golf. I mean, I love to play.
How long have you've been trying that?
Quite a while. It's a never-ending challenge, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like I feel more confident in what I'm doing, and you know, strive to get better.
That's awesome.
I'll add a new one if you're still thinking, but truthfully, I've always enjoyed it, but this year I've been really working at being a better cook. I love cooking. I hate doing dishes, but I love cooking. And it's even more rewarding the better you get. The leftovers during the week, it's really nice to open that Tupperware and be like, hell yeah, here we go. So
now, are you a single guy?
No, I've got a girlfriend,
Okay,
and I think she also enjoys me getting better at cooking.
Say, you know,
so
it's like you're cooking, good-looking guys. You know, she might want to snatch you up. You know,
so far so good.
Smart move.
Yeah, well, the only thing new that I'm trying really is this new diet, because I have what they call a little bit of a weight problem.
that's just an opinion.
But yeah, it's terrible. I'm supposed to be watching what I eat, and it's not working out. So far, I've started, and I'm down 1 pound.
Hey,
Gotta start somewhere.
For 3 weeks. It's going. I'm going to hit my goal in like 25 years.
Seminars like this don't help.
Yeah, all this good food around.
Yeah,
here,
right.
I'm progressing towards my goal.
Well, thank you so much for being on, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you for the time.
Yeah.